Thanks for clicking on Waiting.com for this playoff edition
Finally
of Inside the Zone. I feel like we've been waiting weeks and weeks to talk about the postseason. It's finally here.
I feel like we've been waiting almost a year. You know,
Yeah.
after they got beat by Allen and everybody decided to come back, I think this is what they were waiting for.
Yes, we certainly are excited about the playoff situation. You know, it's really a good matchup for them, I think, on paper at least.
Oh, yeah.
Quad City in the first round. Tell me what you see, because obviously they just played Quad City twice. They hammered them in both games. How beneficial is having two recent dominant wins against Quad City in the regular season to wrap that up as you now turn around and face them here in the postseason of best of 7?
All right, it's either the worst thing that happened to them or the best thing. It's the best thing if they can continue to play like that and keep that in Quad City's head. It's the worst thing if they expect Quad City to keep playing like that and that they're not going to come out harder and better. Then you're in trouble, because C.J. Mott has been their best goalie, and he was not in Saturday night. He was in Friday night, and Friday night was a much different game. The Komets scored 3 goals late to take control. C.J. Mott is the only reason Quad City has a chance in this series. The previous 3 games to this weekend, he had won them all by 1 goal. He had won 3 in a row against the Komets for Quad City.
If you're the Komets, you've just outscored Quad City 11-3
Oh
in
my
2
gosh,
games
and that
on
was the
Friday
way
and
it was the
Saturday.
whole series, unless Mott was in.
So how much confidence does it give you going? I know it's a different scenario if he's in goal, but how much confidence does it give you going forward? Because we talked about it after the bad loss to Toledo on Wednesday night, is they couldn't really hide too many of their cards. They had to play them because they wanted to make sure that they had that momentum going on in the to end the regular season, going into the playoffs.
I don't think there was any. At this point, you've played them 12 times.
Yeah.
There's no cards to hold or play or whatever. Everybody knows what everybody can do. You know, Quad City had a defenseman playing center. Okay, I mean, Quad City had.
Well, Shaftsma had to play defense too.
I was getting to that. Both teams were beat up. Both teams hoped to be healthier. Both teams hoped to be able to play different styles than what they played this weekend. And not that even then there's going to be any surprises. The whole series is on the goaltenders. It really is. It's going to be Pat Nagel or Garrett Bardis and Garrett Bardis against C.J. Mott. And it's all going to be who can keep the puck in the other end of the ice away from their goaltender. It's that simple.
I'm glad you mentioned the goaltending on the Komet side, because if you're Gary Graham, how do you make your decision? Who's going to start where, when, who's going to play? Because, you know, you kind of thought it was Nagel's job to lose, if you will. On Wednesday, it didn't look good. He got pulled, although he didn't get a lot of help from the defenseman blocking
He
shots.
got no help.
I mean,
from
they were
the
guys.
defenseman.
They were firing away and sniping on him.
They were shooting from me to you.
Yeah. So how do you make that decision? What goes into the decision process? What do you think Gary's decision will be, especially early in the series?
I don't think
when
he
you try
can
to
go
figure
wrong.
it out?
Bardis was 4-0 against Quad City. Nagel was 2-0-2 with the 2 shootouts. I mean, he really, actually, he was 3-0-2 now. You can't go wrong with either one of them. I'd play Pat. He's got more experience. Garrett doesn't have to be the guy who starts first. Like, sometimes there's guys who absolutely have to start first or they're useless the rest of the playoffs. We kind of saw that last year. That happened big time. That doesn't happen with Garrett at all. So I would go with Pat. He's got more experience. He's your big money goalie. He's your guy. I mean, he's got the higher ceiling. As Garrett said, Garrett told me last week he thinks Pat's the best goaltender in the league. And with a 2.24 goals against average, that's pretty darn good. I mean, that's pretty remarkable.
You mentioned their records, 8-3-1 in 12 games. They played a couple other teams 9 times, but gosh, 12 games in the regular season.
And I have a feeling that's going to be that way for years.
That is a ton of games against the same opponent. Now, possibly as many as 7, so you're talking about 9 in a row, essentially, if that were to happen. But the 8-3,
It's not going to happen.
No, but the 8-3-1, what do you take away from that? Because obviously the 2 wins are recent and more reflective, perhaps, of the rosters in their current state. But throughout the season, they've been pretty darn dominant, no matter who they've thrown out on the ice against this
Well, I keep
franchise.
notes throughout the year on each game. Here's a couple of the notes. Mott obviously makes them a better team, okay? The other thing is you've got to beware of their forwards sneaking in for breakaways. They had 3 or 4 against the Komets on Friday night. Waring likes to do it, so does Francis. Kovacs likes to do it too. On the other side, Mott stops 4 or 5 breakaways from the Komets a game. Now, if they can hit 1 or 2 of those a game, it's over. There's no way there's no way Quad City has the offense to do that. The Komets outscored Quad City, I think it was 50-24 or 25 this year in the games between them. They don't have the offense to compete as long as the Komets are disciplined defensively. And even in the penalty box, they were like 3 for 35 or 4 for 35 or 36 against the Komets. So they have one of the worst power plays in the league. So, but all that said, if you want to go on to the second round, if you want to be a championship team, prove it now, keep it going, do the right things the right way. You can't just turn it on in the next round if you get there and say, okay, this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it. No, it has to be ingrained.
One guy that they definitely want to have on the roster for the postseason is Trevor Cheek. Where is
He'll be here Wednesday evening.
That's his situation coming back from Tucson.
Yes, he'll be here Wednesday evening. He'll be able to play.
So what does he add, and how does that change the dynamic of what they're doing, if so?
Think about this. Quad City has 3 very good centers with Francis, Basert, and I can't remember the other guy. But 2 of them didn't play this weekend, okay? The Komets didn't have Cheek. They had Perlini playing center. So you've got Cazzola, the Komets MVP. You've got Cheek, who very well could have been the MVP if he'd have been here all year. Mm-hmm. And you've got Uwanek, who's a great defensive third-line center, and he's just fantastic on faceoffs. That is a really good matchup for the Komets now because you have Cheek and you're deeper potentially than Quad City.
So it kind of sets the lines up to be more successful long term.
It really does.
When you take a look at injuries, obviously that's a big part of the game right now. Nobody's 100% healthy, but with the Komets, I think you take a look at defenseman Bobby Shea. Where is Bobby Shea at right now, and Kyle Fulmer? Where are we going to see these guys? What is the status of their situation?
All right, the way it works, the ECHL does not have an injured reserve during the playoffs, but the injured reserve from the regular season carries over into the playoffs. If you're on the 21-day IR like 2 weeks ago, you have to serve 21 days even if the playoffs are started. So Kyle Fulmer won't be available until after games 1 and 2. Bobby Shea probably will not be available until after the first round series is over, okay? But Will Weber, who missed last weekend's games with a sore wrist, they think he's going to be able to play. It's still early yet. Knowing Will, the tank, he's going to play. Mm-hmm. So, but then you're all set up at that point because you'll have Fulmer back, and then you'll have, Shea back after that, which you're going to need all 3 of those guys potentially if you're going to advance past the first round after that.
If you were doing like grade school grades, A, B, C, D, in terms of Komets' health going into the playoffs, where would you say they are? Like a B?
Oh, nobody's completely healthy, but I would say a B, yeah. Nobody's out. And I think you're in better shape than Quad City is right now. So, yeah.
No, that's
that's a solid B.
Solid
B. And it's going to get worse. Nobody gets through, the playoffs are about endurance and perseverance. Right. And dealing with injuries and grinding. It's about surviving.
All right. Now, I want to change direction for a little bit because the ECHL Rookie of the ECHL Rookie of the Year award came out this afternoon, and we surmised Mike Cazzola would be up there. He finished actually 4th in the voting. The Spink brothers, 1 and 2 from Toledo. So when you saw that, were you surprised?
No.
No,
and it's nothing against Mike or anything like that.
Is Toledo's team success?
Yeah, I think that had a huge part of it. Kent Schultz finished 3rd from Wheeling, and if Wheeling had been in the playoffs, I would have expected him to finish 2nd possibly. He was amazing this year. This is the best rookie class the UHL's had in a while. These are all 4 could have won it any other year type thing. Mm-hmm. They're all 4 quality players. I would have hoped that voters would have taken maybe more of a look at Mike's plus minus. He was plus 30. That's pretty darn good.
That's not terrible.
Yeah. But I have no problem with Tyson Spink winning. I really don't. Toledo was a great team. They're a great team. They're fun to watch. And he's been there all year. And more power to you. How can you argue when there's that good of players all the way through the top 4?
Right. Now, this week, what's the focus with Gary? Because they've been playing quite a few games in a short amount of time. I know they had 3 last week, but it was a Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. And the 2 weeks previous to that, they were playing 4 and 5s.
Right.
So this is like compared to what they've been playing the last couple of weeks, this is like a huge break for them.
Well, they took Monday and Tuesday off last week, and then they had Toledo. and
Yeah.
that's part of that.
So what is the focus this week? Do you think they'll be rested and ready?
Oh, yeah.
And what are some of the points that Gary is really stressing as they want to go into this series healthy, rested, and ready to go?
Okay, here's what I would look at, and maybe it's different from what his, but I would keep working on the penalty kill because they can't beat you unless they get a lot of power play goals. They just do not have that offense, like we said, 50 to 25 or whatever throughout the season series. They don't have the offense. I would work on preventing the breakaways, and you work defense first. I really would, because you've got the offense. Kyle Thomas breaking through on Saturday night, and Sean Sedlowski scoring Saturday night, Mike Embach scoring. Those are big goals, not necessarily in the scale of the game.
Get some guys going.
Oh, yeah, get those guys going. Yeah, I think those were huge that way. I really, really liked that. I thought they were big momentum things for those guys.
A final question, what are you most looking forward to about the series against Quad City?
Really not.
Yeah?
Advancing,
I guess, would be.
Yeah,
because there's a big cutoff, I think. There's 1, there's 2, and then there's a big cutoff
yeah.
to 3. The difference
Yeah.
between 2 and 3 in the seeding is
I want to
tremendous.
see them. I want to see them set up the next round. Okay, and yeah, that's arrogant, and I'm sure it'll be on bulletin board material or whatever. If you need bulletin board material at this point, there's a problem with you,
Yeah.
not the people giving it. Seriously, but I want to see them play 4 games, 5 games, really strong, 60 minutes, disciplined, doing what you're supposed to do, hitting hard, being a great forecheck. Don't let them out of their zone. I want to see that. I want to see them do things that we knew all year they could do. They have not done consistently. I want to see that. I want to see them perform very, very well and then maintain it.
Last thing, your prediction.
You said last question.
I know, I said last.
Come on.
I said last question.
Oh, jeez.
This is more of a statement.
Okay.
Your prediction
Yeah.
for this series.
4 or 5.
4 or 5.
I don't like predictions because who am I? I mean, what does my
You're Blake Sebring.
What does my prediction mean over anything?
Hall of Famer Blake Sebring.
What does my prediction mean over anything? I mean, and the playoffs are so much different than the regular season. Like I said at the start, if the Komets think that these games are going to be anything like last Friday and Saturday, that's where they're going to be in trouble. I don't think they will. I really don't.
Really?
No, I really don't think that the Komets are going to take Quad City lightly, which means it'll be even quicker.
Well, that is good news for Komets fans.
I mean, there is a respect for Quad City, but there's not a fear, But they know if they play the way they're supposed to, they will handle Quad
That's
City.
a good way to put it. A respect, but no fear. And it should be an interesting series. First round playoffs, we'll be talking about it on Monday. For Blake, I'm Glenn. We'll see you next week.